Greetings, fellow RotoBallers. Welcome back. It is Week 10. It is the Checkdown. My name is Joey Christopoulos with my co-host, Tutty Guy Dave Rispoli. Welcome back to the show that's going to give you our favorite quarterback and tight end starts and sits for Week 10. Now we got bye weeks. Let's get those out of the way. The Chicago Bears, Cincinnati Bengals, Houston Texans, New York Football Giants all on bye. Dave, wow, the cupboard is bare. How are you doing this week, man? Week 9, again, another really weird, crazy week for fantasy football.
Yeah, I feel like there is a hangover effect from Halloween, Joey. Josh Johnson was a top 4 quarterback. Olamide Zaccheaus was a top 3 wide receiver.
Naturally.
And wouldn't you know, Eno Benjamin scores a tutty. All is right in fantasy world, right, Joe?
Yeah, my favorite kind of music back in 2001. That's why I got the Hawaiian shirt on today. We're going to party down. We're going to get you some picks, hopefully win your fantasy league this weekend. Remember, comments, questions go right below here on this video. We'll answer any question that you have about your fantasy team. Even if it isn't quarterback and tight end, we will do it. And please also like this video as well. Dave, let's kick it off, man. Our start sits. Let's start a quarterback, Week 10. I'm going with, he's back, baby. The mascara man. Get out of my dreams. Get into my Derek Carr versus Kansas City Chiefs in Week 10. There's a little history to this, and there's a little present history going on right now. Derek Carr against the Kansas City Chiefs last year. Dave completed 45 of 62 of his passes, 72% completion percentage for 6 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, averaged 311 yards against them. The Raiders scored 71 points against the Chiefs last year. You're like, Joey, last year's different. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs defense, it still sucks. They're allowing the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year, and the numbers really haven't gotten that much better, even though they have faced Tyler Heineke, Ryan Tannehill, Daniel Jones, and Jordan Love over the last 4 weeks. Derek Carr having a strong season, putting up the yards. I think, last week against the Giants, 2 interceptions, not so great. I think he bounces back this week. I think he's a really solid start, and I think he can get top 10 numbers. What say you, Dave?
I love the pick, Joe, especially because even in a down week, Derek Carr almost threw for 300 yards and got you 1 tutty and 46 pass attempts. So I like to see that. Speaking of consistency, let's move over to a guy who keeps coming back on the show, and it's because he keeps producing. I feel like because he played on Thursday, he's out of sight, out of mind. But no, let's not forget what a killer performance that was. Carson Wentz. And this week, he gets Jacksonville. Yes, please. In the last 6 games, he has thrown multiple TDs and has been the QB 6 in fantasy in that span. Before Josh Allen laid an egg, Jacksonville was very forgiving to opposing quarterbacks, giving up the 11th most fantasy points. I don't see Wentz slowing down. Pittman is alive and well. Maybe he even gets T.Y. Hilton back. Jonathan Taylor looks like the best back in football, especially now that Derrick Henry's gone. So suit him up. Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I'm so happy you mentioned Jonathan Taylor because not only is he cooking and rolling right now, the Jaguars are a green light matchup for wide receivers as well, so Pittman's going to be a great play. And Wentz, man, you hit it right in the head, averaging 251 passing during that 6-game span, 14 touchdowns in that multi-TD streak. Jacksonville, they've allowed 5 quarterbacks to post at least 20 fantasy points against them. I think that's a great expectation for Carson Wentz, and I think he's a great start this week too as well in Week 10. Finally, my last one, you were mentioning consistency, and this one I don't know if this is actually going to fall into the category of consistency. Put it on ice, baby. Matty Ice, he's back on the check down. We can't quit him. We can't let him go. He's playing the Dallas Cowboys this week. Last 6 games, Matt Ryan, 13 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, averaging 282 passing yards in that span. He's on a heater right now, Dave. Now, look, every time that we put him on the check down, could easily be the week that he disappoints us. But Dallas, they're allowing the 6th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. They've allowed 4 300-yard passing games this season. They had 10 interceptions the first 5 games, which made everyone think Dallas's defense was something to be special. Think special of. They only have 1 interception over the last 3. That's good news for Matt Ryan right now. There's another player on the Falcons that might show up in this segment here, right here on the check down that we also like. I think this is a good time to try Matt Ryan, DFS, whatever, maybe on a bye week. Maybe you have to play. Maybe you got Daniel Jones and you got to figure that out. Or maybe you got Joe Burrow. Matt Ryan could possibly fill in for you in Week 10.
Yeah, Joey, another great call by you, pal. Another great call. No, we said he was a sit last week, egg on our face. Here's what I think is happening with the Falcons. I was really into Arthur Smith coming over from the Titans as a play caller because of his efficiency in the red zone. And look, it takes time to install a new offense. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the fruits of Arthur Smith's labor come to fruition. Now, finally, it seems like the Falcons are cooking and Matty Ice is playing lights out. So you got to start him.
Yeah, and my extra point too. We were watching that game. We were texting together. They were up 17-6 at the time, and typically that's when a team would shut it down and start running the football. Well, those good old Falcons, they give up a lead like nobody's business. So even if they get up in games, Matt Ryan is still going to have to throw the football in pretty much every game he's going to be in this season. That's always a good recipe for fantasy success. Dave, it's time to hit over to our sits. Who you sitting this week for quarterbacks in Week 10?
One more ticket to the Tannehill roller coaster, please. It's up, it's down, it's mostly down. Ryan Tannehill versus the Saints is my sit this week.
Yeah.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Right now, he's quietly the fantasy QB 13. Okay. But if you look at his last 3 out of his last 6 games, you look at his passing yards, this is worrisome to me. 197 yards, 216, 143 yards with single digit touchdowns in 4 out of the 6 of those games and no touchdowns in one of them. You know, I love tutties, Joey. He doesn't throw them a lot. And their defense, for me, has been the biggest surprise. I think the difference between last year and this year is the defense all of a sudden looks lights out. We saw what they did to the Rams. So I just don't think they need to put up the points. And the Saints, maybe it's Trevor Siemian, maybe it's Taysom Hill, hearing a lot of rumors that Kamara may not play. This is not an offense that's going to put up a ton of points. I could see them going right back to the Titans of old, running the heck out of the ball with Adrian Peterson, Deonta Foreman, Jeremy McNichols,
Michael Turner,
Michael Turner, Steven Jackson. The ghosts of all of them are probably going to get a call from the Titans. I just don't see big points from Tannehill. I'm not saying, you absolutely cannot start Tannehill, but if I'm looking at Tannehill, Carr, Matty Ice, I'm definitely sitting Tannehill.
Yeah, I'm seeing a low-scoring game in this one too as well, and Tannehill's averaging 218 passing yards over his last 5, and as you mentioned, the touchdowns just really aren't there. Not a great recipe right now for Tannehill, hopefully helping out your fantasy roster in Week 10. My next sit, this kind of hurts the checkdown's heart a little bit because it is Jalen Hurts versus the Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos are starting to become a matchup that is pretty much a red flag for anyone that if they're in your fantasy lineup and they're playing Denver, you got to really start to think twice. Of course, Devontae Smith totally proved me wrong on that particular concept, but the Broncos, they've only allowed 11 passing touchdowns all season. They've only allowed 109 rushing yards to QBs all season. Now, I know Jalen Hurts is not a normal QB that they see on a week-to-week basis, but that right there, it kind of makes you pause a little bit. Of course, Jalen Hurts is still going to get probably his 30 to 60 rushing yards a game, but I'm just a little bit skeptical playing a Broncos team that's held QBs to 16 fantasy points 5 times, or 16 points or fewer 5 times already this season. Jalen Hurts also in the passing game only averaging 162 over his last 5, completed only 56% of his passes during that time. He's another crazy stat, Dave. He hasn't won a game in the afternoon yet. He's 0-3, and when he plays in the afternoon, not in the morning, he's also 0-3 versus the AFC right now. Those are just probably some more betting parlay numbers that are going to be interesting to other people, maybe not in fantasy. It just might not be the week for Jalen Hurts. And again, we've known about this. The Philadelphia Eagles offense is impossible to figure out. I cannot wait for the questions below of Gainwell or Scott or Smith or, who knows? The ball just goes wherever it is because they're always in a scramble drill. We talked about that last week. It continues, but I don't really see a ton of success against Denver. He's a sit for me.
Yeah, this one, when you texted me about this, I was like, no, we can't stick Jalen Hurts. We just said he's must-start material on the show 3 weeks ago. Well, the Eagles were a different team then because I dug into the numbers, Joey. They have jumped up almost 20 percentile in the run percentage. They are now the highest run percentage in the NFL over their last 3 games at 62.5%. The next closest team is the Patriots with 52%. So they're 10% higher than the second highest run team. Now they're facing a Broncos team who, guess what, ranked 12th in run percentage. So read between the tea leaves. This sets up to be a low scoring, clock eating, run the ball kind of game.
Yeah, and the Eagles definitely have to win this game or their season, it be over. So we'll see what happens there. And look, yeah, I just don't think Jalen Hurts puts up a strong number. You can still start him. We're not saying absolutely bench him and put in Trevor Lawrence or whatever, but just don't really like the possibility of him putting up a big number. Let's go to our tight end starts. This is going to be fun. We've been doing pretty decent in this category recently. My first start of the week. Let's do it. Let's drop a little Mike Gesicki versus Baltimore. Baltimore, they've allowed 6 touchdowns to the tight end position. They've allowed 6 40-plus receiving yards games to different tight ends, and 5 of them went for 10 or more fantasy points. Well, Gesicki, he has 8 straight games of 40-plus receiving yards. He's averaging 7.5 targets during that span, and he's also averaging 75.5 receiving yards over his last 4 games. Look, the only thing that's missing with him is touchdowns, right, this year. Otherwise, I think we would be talking about him a lot more. He's already kind of a must-start if you already have him in most leagues. But I'm just saying that I think that he's going to put up a really good number, 10 to 14 points. I think he has top 5 tight end potential in Week 10 against Baltimore. And, we don't know who's going to be under center for Miami right now. Time stamping, we're taping this on a Tuesday, so we're going to have to see. Hopefully we can let you know in the comments as breaking news comes down. I just think Gesicki could put up a good number, whether it's Brissett or Tua.
Yep, love the call, Joey. Our next tight end start, talked about the quarterback. Why not start his favorite target, Kyle Pitts, guy who's been on both sides of this show, starts and sits. Look, last game, he had some bad drops. He really did. But the good news is he's going deep. He's getting open. If he can just get some stickier hands, watch out, world. I mean, Matty Ice is certainly looking his way early and often. What say you, Joe, about Pitts versus Dallas?
Well, he's averaging 7.1 targets this season, and to hammer home your point, which is so correct, Dave, he is a tight end averaging 15.2 yards per reception. Right?
Love to see it. Love to see it.
If you've got the targets plus the combination of him possibly picking up 15 yards every time he hauls in a catch, look, in the land of tight ends, that is gold, right? And I think this is a strong start. Dallas gives up the 12th most fantasy points to tight ends, so it's not necessarily a prohibitive matchup. Anyways, Dave, let's get over to our sits.
Oh, wait.
Oh, that's right. I almost forgot. We've got a special guest here today.
We do.
Making his tight end start.
Making his appearance for the first time. Welcome to the check down. This is if you're desperate, look on waivers. Dan, the man, Arnold, ladies and gentlemen. Joey, I was heartbroken when he got traded because we could no longer hear the announcers say Darnold to Arnold connection, But since Jacksonville has traded for him, he has led the team in both targets and yards. 30 targets in his last 4 games. This is a guy they traded for to be Trevor Lawrence's safety blanket. We don't know what's happening with their wide receiver core. 1 week it's Marvin Jones, then it's Jamal Agnew. Laviska Shenault seems like an afterthought. We do know this. Trevor Lawrence likes Dan Arnold, and he's taking on Indy, giving up the 8th most points to tight ends. So if you're desperate, I'm saying, Dan Arnold, welcome to the check down, my man.
The most interesting name in football. Step on down. Yeah, welcome to the check down. Walk right over here. We got a beautiful swag bag for you, filled with all sorts of delicious Ryan Fitzpatrick goodies, if you will. I really like that call, too, as well. And, Dave, look, he's going to be available, right? This is something that you don't even maybe need to put in a waiver claim for. Wait till maybe he rolls a free agent and you can pick him up for free and be able to play him right away in Week 10. It's a great call. Let's move over to our sits. Let's dive into it, Dave. Do you want to go first? Who's your sit for Week 10 with tight ends?
Yeah, it's going to be Jared Cook versus Minnesota. I think Jared Cook's a good player. I love the Chargers. But all of a sudden, this tight end core seems a bit more crowded than it once was a couple of weeks ago. Steven Anderson has emerged. He has as many targets as Cook, right behind our X-Check's own Donald Parham.
The ham.
So now this is a 3-headed monster that's already getting like 3 targets apiece. Don't love that. It's a tough matchup. Minnesota's 27th versus a tight end. And, who knows which tight end is going to fall in the end zone, if any of them. I just don't like betting on that. So Jared Cook is a hard sit for me this week.
Yeah, Vikings just haven't allowed a touchdown to the tight end position. Not a great start, and they've only allowed 1 tight end to score more than 10 fantasy points against them, and I think it was only like 11 points. So just the ceiling isn't very high, and as you mentioned, more people in the mix makes it more difficult for a veteran like Jared Cook to be able to put up a strong number. My final sit is I'm going TJ Hawkinson versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, look, this is kind of a little bit more of a gut call. I think a lot of people are going to have to start him in lineups. I personally, in one of my leagues, I'm going to have to start TJ Hawkinson. I'm just not wild about it. They're coming off a bye week. He's coming off a game where he had 11 targets for 10 receptions for 89 yards. You're like, okay, hockey back, baby. But he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 2. He's going to get some targets in this game. I just don't like any of the Lions in this game against the Steelers defense. And I know the Steelers just allowed Cole Kmet to get 87 yards in the passing game. I'm just not buying it right now. I don't like DeAndre Swift in this game. I think Jared Goff could have some serious problems against the Steelers. And this could also be one of those maybe low-scoring games. If you go over our boom bust video, in a couple of days towards the end of the week, you'll see also we like a lot of Steelers against this Detroit Lions defense, and one of them is named Najee Harris. So if they're running the rock, it's going to get into a situation where I just don't know if the Lions are going to be able to keep up. Hockenson could get some targets, maybe get you some yards, but maybe 6, 8, 9 fantasy points tops. I just don't see him in the end zone, Dave. That's why he's a sit for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Gun to my head, if I had to say which one I'd prefer starting within this game, I'm going Pat Freiermuth.
Yes.
I'm looking to the other side of the ball. I'd much
Yes.
rather have Pat Freiermuth in this matchup than TJ Hockenson. Love the call, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to do it, you guys. That's our quarterback tight end start sits for week 10 right here at RotoBaller. This was the check down. My name is Joey Christopoulos. Follow me at Joey Sports Guy. My co-host Dave Rispoli, rocking and rolling at Tutty Guy. Remember, like this video, comments and questions below. Keep them coming, you guys. You guys have been so great about, asking your questions. We're doing the best we can to give you answers, doing the best we can to be right every single week. But we're seeing returning guests, and we really, really appreciate that. So keep it coming. Keep watching our videos through the rest of the season, and hopefully we can get you some fantasy wins. Thanks so much for checking out the Checkdown Week 10. Until then, see you next week.